Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm so excited to welcome Casey back to the podcast. Welcome, Casey.
Hello again, everyone. Glad to be back.
And this time we are discussing It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The series premiered on FX on August 4th, 2005, and then it moved to FXX in 2013. And it currently has 14 seasons, 154 episodes, so really a long-running show. So, when did you first start watching this show?
It must have been in college. I was in Chicago or near Chicago at the time, and there was a polar vortex, they called it, where all of our classes were canceled for like 3 days. And a couple friends and I just stayed inside the entire time. We snuck off to the dining hall every once in a while, but we just watched maybe half of the show that was available at the time, and I was hooked from then on.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this is a show I had always heard of it, and just one of the shows I've been meaning to finally watch, and now I finally did this year. I binged it over the past couple months, and my goodness, it's crazy. I really love it. But I've always heard that, maybe you've heard this comparison too, that people compare it to, they say it's like Seinfeld on steroids or Seinfeld on cocaine, whatever. Have you heard that comparison before?
Yeah, and I think they've described it as an anti-sitcom or a reverse Friends, where they all become more horrible people as the show goes on instead of better people.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And also, usually it's a show that people, they love each other, and then with this gang, I don't know, they have a very toxic relationship, to say the least.
They sure do.
They just they're all assholes in their own special way.
100%. Yeah, there's really no redeemable character in the gang, at least.
Yeah, true. Is there even a redeemable? Oh, I guess in the series, here and there, but not really.
Yeah, not
As
quite.
I'm thinking of it, everyone, to some extent, I feel has their own selfish intentions. Especially with the gang, obviously. They're just their own selfish motives.
That's true.
But,
even the waitress, isn't totally redeemable.
True, yeah. Well, also, we know that this poor waitress, she's an alcoholic.
Right.
Dear God. And we still don't even know her name. I guess that's one of those things we'll just never find out what her actual name is.
It's like in Fairly Odd Parents in the old episodes where you would never see the parents' heads. It's just something that they changed that eventually, but yeah, there's no way we'll ever find out what her real name is.
So, who's your favorite member of the gang?
Ooh. I love Dennis. I also love Dee, though. I think depending on the day, it's one of the two of them. Today, I would probably say Dennis.
Okay, cool. I would say he's my second favorite. My favorite's Charlie, actually.
That's very fair.
Yeah, because to me, I don't know, there's something endearing about him. The fact that he's so hopelessly in love with the waitress, but it's just this sick, unhealthy infatuation.
Yeah.
And then he's really got, they really all, though, to a certain extent, they have their own anger issues.
Yes.
And with him, though, they're all alcoholics. And then with him specifically, he likes huffing paint. Oh my God. Huffing glue. And he always reeks of cheese, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I like Charlie. I don't know. And for me, though, some of my biggest laugh-out-loud moments watching this show, involved Charlie in some way, so...
Yeah, he's the center of some of my favorite episodes, for sure.
Oh, yeah? Because, even... So, when I first started watching this show, I don't know, I had first just watched the pilot, so that was maybe a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. And then actually earlier this year, I watched a few episodes on a plane, and they were a few episodes from season 13. So it was that season 13 premiere, what's it called? The Gang Makes Patty's Great Again,
right.
That one. And then it was Time's Up for the Gang, and the other one I watched was, The Gang Escapes, that one, when they're in the escape room.
Yes.
So it's, when you first just watch a show, to me, it's all I'm going off of is the writing and the interactions when I don't know the characters so well, but my first impressions of it were just... why are all these people friends? It was just interesting.
It's a good question. They're kind of stuck with each other.
Yeah. For sure. What I really admire too about this show, though, is that so created by Rob McElhenney, and then him, Glenn Howerton, and Charlie Day, all executive producers, all star in it. So they're really hands on with the series, which I think is great.
And there are 2 or 3 couples within the show, right? It's Rob and Caitlin are married.
Yeah, they're married in real life. And Charlie and
the waitress. I
yeah,
don't
Mary
remember her
Elizabeth
name.
Ellis. Yeah, they're married in real life. I know that's just so funny to think because the waitress, especially, she does such a great job at being so repulsed by him. And it's just funny knowing that in real life they're married. And same with Mac and Dee in the show because Mac like genuinely hates Dee.
Yep. They're great at having no on-screen chemistry, both couples, which is exactly what it needs.
That's so true. I think, in terms of the dynamic with the gang, that Mac and Dee are, like, get along the least. For sure, out of everyone. And then I think the 2 that get along the most are definitely Charlie and Frank.
Yes, yeah, there's rarely conflict between them.
Because I think they just genuinely get along and they genuinely get each other.
They do.
I mean, there's just so much to unpack with this series, though, just thinking about... Because I will say, as I was watching, especially with the earlier episodes, I didn't see it as Seinfeld on steroids or whatever with that comparison. To me, actually, if anything, it reminds me a little bit more of... I don't know if you watch South Park.
Not much of it, but I could see the comparison.
Yeah, because just with the very kind of topical humor and satire and things like that, and just poking fun at things like, for instance, early on when they're saying when it's okay to use the term Jew. And like, I was like, oh god, that just reminds me of something in South Park.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right? And also it actually reminds me a little bit of a much more deranged and toxic version of the main characters in New Girl. I don't know if you watched that show. That show's a great show.
No, I haven't. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a
comparison.
great show. That one's more... Actually, she's in it too. The one who plays the waitress. She's in...
Oh, really?
A little bit, yeah.
Huh.
She plays one of the main characters' the ex. So I know early on, though, they said that... Because early on... So the first season, it was just the 4 of them. And then they brought Danny DeVito on in the second season to play Frank. Because I guess they wanted to just have a bigger guest star to just keep the show on the air.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be just a guest star role, right? And then he loved it, they loved him, and now, obviously, I think it's easy to forget that he wasn't even in the first season.
Yeah,
Especially because it's so short. It's only, like, 6 episodes, maybe?
I think so, like 7, I think.
Yeah.
I think what really... So even just with the pilot, the first thing that struck me was just them... like with their racism. I was like, oh dear God. Like,
Yeah, they really dive right in, and then the cancer episode is pretty brutal too a few later.
Oh my God, yeah. So you know what? I don't know if you know this. What's funny about the scene, like when Charlie is telling Dennis he has cancer, that scene, they actually used that for Caitlin Olsen's audition, like for Sweet D. Yeah.
I've seen that video. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's funny. And then they said, oh, that's actually not your scene. We just didn't have anything funny for that character yet. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, she had so much of the character in her already when she did that audition. It's really amazing.
For sure. And it's just funny, like, them just not giving a shit whatsoever. And then the fact that he just lied in the first place about that he may have cancer just to gain the waitress's sympathy.
Yeah, that was the moment that sort of hooked me on the show when he said, well, here's the thing about cancer, is that I don't have it.
Oh my God. I can't.
So good.
Yeah. And then even, like, the second episode, too, Charlie wants an abortion. That's the whole pro-life versus pro-choice thing.
Yep. And that sort of set up a classic formula for them where they're on different sides at the beginning of the episode, and then they all switch to the other side, but it's still a conflict at the end.
It's fantastic. You're right. Yeah, because then, like, with Mac, and then he thought he got that girl pregnant, and he's like, oh, no, gotta do pro-choice for sure. And they were just doing that just to get laid. Like, oh, my God.
And they do that with guns, too. There's a couple political issues where, you know, they flip-flop by the end, and then they're still arguing, but now they're arguing from the other point of view.
That's fantastic. Oh, my God. Anything just to suit their own selfish needs. That's all that matters. That's all, They're just full of bullshit. They really don't even care about the issues. That's the thing.
Right.
So then, they could just flip like that, and it doesn't matter to them. And then also what was like just really struck me early on watching this, also in season 1, the gang finds a dead guy. And then when
yeah.
they're going through Dennis and Dee's grandfather's stuff, and then Charlie's like, "Oh, you gotta come over here, dude." And then he walks out. He's fucking wearing the grandfather's Nazi uniform. I was like, "Oh my god, they're just like really ballsy, just like going all in." It was wild. I was like, "Dear God."
I forgot.
And then
about
also
that
season 1 introduces us to the McPoyle brothers, and Charlie got molested.
Yes.
And that one's wild too, with Mac trying to get molested. Like,
Yep. Lots of twists and turns there.
oh my god, it's just, yeah.
The McPoyles are great, the Ponderosas are great, and of course that all comes to a head in the trial, right? That's a season finale of one of the seasons.
Was it the McPoyles versus the Ponderosas? Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, because the wedding. Okay, I remember. Yeah, because even binging them all, everything kind of blends together a little
totally
bit.
does.
But yeah.
With Del Toro, right? The director is the older Ponderosa. Guillermo del Toro is the older Ponderosa. He wanted a guest star. Yeah, isn't that hilarious?
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, you mean the brother?
No, he's the one who's wearing the hat with the bird in it.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, now I remember. You're right.
Yeah, I just love that. I think he asked for it or something.
Did he really?
He just really wanted to be on the show. Yeah, he's Pappy McPoyle. That's the character.
Okay. Was that their uncle or something?
I forget what it is.
I remember the bird
exactly.
nonsense though, because then Charlie's talking about he knows bird law.
Right,
and Charlie has his creepy fucking uncle who's got the big hands.
With the hands, yeah. He's one of my favorite side characters.
He's so disturbing. He's
so creepy.
Definitely molested Charlie, which that's so upsetting too, dear God. All the family members are hilarious too, because freaking Mac's mom.
Yes,
she's so funny. I think it might have been season 1 too, or maybe season 2 when that's right, when Mac was sleeping with Dennis and Dee's mom. So then Dennis tries to seduce
That's
Mac's
a really
mom,
good
and she's
one.
like, "I find you ugly. I don't want to sleep with you." Oh my god.
And Mac's dad is great too.
Oh my god,
he's terrifying.
He really is. Yeah. Then there's that episode when Charlie and Mac think that Mac's dad is going to kill them because they ended up calling the police to get him back in prison.
Right,
So then they fake their deaths with Dee's. Poor Dee's car always gets destroyed with these guys. They're so insane. I think out of the whole gang that duo, Charlie and Mac, I think they are the most destructive when they're together to society. They just go all in. They just fucking go insane.
That's true, because Dennis, even though he doesn't have great judgment either, he can kind of guide them away from total destruction, but when they're on their own, it's not a good recipe.
Right. Oh my god. But then there's things also in season 2, when Dennis and Dee go on welfare. Oh, that reminds me too, something else I like about this show, how more often than not, the title of the episode is the punchline to the cold open. So in that episode, when Dennis is like, "Oh, me and Dee are going to be just fine," and then cut to Dennis and Dee go on welfare.
Yeah.
That's just, oh my god. Another one was when Mac was like, "I'm going to save my dad's life," and then cut to Mac kills his dad.
Yeah,
that's wild
that's a great one.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, then they get addicted to crack. And then I liked how then a decade later, 2016, in one of the episodes when Frank falls out the window, and then he thinks it's 2006 again, so then they're reliving all of that stuff again. Mm-hmm. And then they get addicted to crack again, and then...
Yeah, is that the gang recycles their trash?
No, that's another one. This one's Frank falls out the window, so he basically gets amnesia.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh wow," they're saying, "Oh, we invented these, the iPhones." And he's like, "Oh, that's so great. I'm so proud of you kids." That one's great too. The gang recycles their trash, because then they're trying to do the whole thing where they pick up people's trash and they're like, "This isn't satisfying." It's you know what I really want to do? What they tried to do before with the selling gas door to door.
Yeah.
See, I really do love the meta humor in this show too. That's great. It's just so hilarious. But then, I don't remember now which episode, but then I think when they're selling gas door to door, then they're saying the whole group dynamic that Charlie's the wild card and Mac's the brawn, Dennis is the good looks. Or no, Mac thinks he's the brains, and then they say Dee is the useless chick and Frank is the guy with the money. Oh yeah, it's it. Dennis is the looks, Mac is the brains, Charlie is the wild card, Frank is the muscle, and Dee is the useless chick. Oh, that's the gang solves the gas crisis. That's season 4. So that's their whole group dynamic.
Right.
And then another great meta one, though, is when the gang tries desperately to win an award.
I was just gonna bring that one
right?
up. Yeah, the
so when they go to that,
is...
they go to that rival bar, and then they see, like, they're like watching the whole dynamic of the people that work there. And they're saying, oh, look at these two. They have that great will they, won't they? And the girl doesn't need to be funny. She's so charming. They're just, like, analyzing it as if it's a sitcom.
Right. It's like it's Friends or whatever.
True.
Big Bang Theory. And, yeah, they're very clearly sort of mocking their competition.
Yeah, and then they're trying to recreate it, though. And then they're saying, well, you two are going to have, like, your little will they, won't they, Mac and Dee. And they're just, like, forcing all that. And it's just, like, so...
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we'll have our witty banter. And it's just obviously... terrible.
When Dennis makes the crack about Mac never having an orgasm and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs,
yeah.
I've had so many.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh jeez. Yeah, they really just lose their tempers like that. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Charlie a lot too. I know there's that one
Yeah.
when they tried out for the football team or something, and they're just sitting inside talking, and then Charlie's like, oh my god, I don't care. Like, he just loses his shit. Like, just, oh my god.
Whereas Dennis has more of a sinister sort of evil bubbling underneath that he has to escalate, where he'll keep things under control and then finally snap, like in the Mac and Dennis moved to the suburbs, his fantastic monologue to their neighbor Wally that doesn't really happen, but he strips off all his clothes.
He was imagining that? That's right. Holy shit, that one's wild.
Because he wasn't even there after. It's like, was he ever there? Are they, Right.
Oh my god, yeah. So then Mac is like the housewife, and then Dennis going to work, and then he's slowly losing it in traffic, and then the thing with the dog, it's like, oh, Dennis Jr., and then he's burying the dog. Oh
and then feeds him to Dennis
and
in the mac and cheese.
Yes, oh my god. And then they're like, oh, you won the bet. It's like, well, so what's the rent for? It's like, for right here. And then they're like, they can't take anymore, so then they all lose the bet. They all have to sleep in the same bed. Yeah. With the old man. Terrible. And with Dee, too, because she was thrown in there, too.
Yeah.
See, Dee easily, she gets shit on the most in the group, in the gang,
true.
Excuse me.
It's true.
Yeah. See, I think Mac does, too, but it's more behind his back when they are, like, shitting on Mac. But Dee, she's just always, just because she's a woman, them and their sexism, and they're just making fun of Dee. Yeah. Calling her a bird. But then, you never feel bad for them, because they're all just so... crazy.
And she's ruined so many people's lives too.
True, because she slept with Bill Ponderosa, but then he was like had all these other hookers or whatever.
And of course with Cricket too, who she completely ruins.
I think out of everyone that the gang has encountered, I think maybe they ruined his life the most. Rickety Cricket, with him starting as a priest, and now he's just a homeless man.
Yeah.
And, like, with each season, you see the progression of him getting more and more just disgusting looking, really. They get him addicted to cocaine, that one episode, too.
Right, yep.
But even when they introduce Frank, though, Charlie gets crippled. Like, in that one, too, when they're pretending to be handicapped, and then even Dee, when she's like, what a bunch of scumbags, and then she's just hobbling away. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, she's not above it at all.
What's funny, too, is, though, since they're, like, the head writers and everything, but then they improvise a lot. So I don't know if you know, in the gang runs for office, like, when they have Dennis running for office, and then when he does that whole speech that Charlie wrote, that's all improvised. When he's like, oh, if you vote me, whatever he says. That is improvised? That's all improvised, yes. And then, like, amazing. Charlie's actually holding back laughter, yeah. Like, taxes, they'll be lowered, so you couldn't even finish him because he's illiterate, Charlie. That's insane too. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, lots of sort of random recurring jokes like that too. Like Dennis being like a serial killer is another one. Right,
they had that episode, what is it called? Dennis Reynolds making a murderer, basically, like that parody.
Oh, that's such a good one.
That's so great, yeah. And then basically implying that he killed his ex-wife, Maureen Ponderosa. And she just had become a cat.
Yep.
Fuck. Like, what? Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know which family is more disturbing, the McPoyles or the Ponderosas.
See, I mean, the McPoyles are straight up incestuous.
They're so
And
gross.
also, there's that episode, the gang gets held hostage. That's season 3, when they just are holding them hostage, but then it just all turned out to be a joke that they did that. And there was like the brothers and then the sister. Oh my god, that's wild. Like, jeez, what the fuck? Oh, and another improvised thing though actually was Charlie goes Charlie goes America all over everybody's ass when he sings that song. Like, that weird little song he sings, that was improvised too.
Yeah, is that a Green Man episode?
Oh no, that one, I don't know. No, that's not that. I don't think so, because that's when they go to some just football game, right? They're just...
Yeah, there's a couple Green Man episodes, but yeah, I don't think that's one of them.
And another hilarious one, when Frank's like, who's gonna get hurt, Deandra? And then it cuts to Frank set Sweet D on fire.
Yeah.
So that scene when they're trying to go viral or whatever, and they're trying to film stuff because Mac, like, wanted to be badass, and then he gets pissed off at Charlie. He's like, wait, so you didn't put the tape in? He's like, oh, I forgot to put a tape in! And he's screaming. And then you just see Rob, like, he just blatantly cracks a smile, then Charlie just cracks a smile. They just both blatantly break character, but they're just still, like, I found that so funny, though, when he's just full-on screaming at the top of his lungs. He's like, oh, sorry, I forgot to put a tape in. So they just were doing all that for nothing. Just so stupid. Oh, my goodness. And so many parodies, too. Another great one, America's Next Top Patties Billboard Model Contest.
Oh, that one's brutal. That's a hard one to watch.
Oh, my God, but so much just showing Dennis's vanity in particular when he wants to be a model for the billboard. And then, of course, just Frank screwing them over and saying, nah, I already bought the billboard because you said I was ugly, and, like, he's on the billboard after all that. That one, too, has Charlie and Dee trying to create a viral video on YouTube. Oh,
yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. It's a tough show to binge because you just start feeling so gross.
Well, you know, when I was binging it, too, like, then at points, then I'm kind of becoming, like, kind of numb to all of their antics.
Right,
like, also when it escalates, and then, for instance, in the episode... Patty's Pub, the worst bar in Philadelphia, when they kidnapped the newspaper critic.
Oh,
and then, like, Charlie kidnapped someone else. And then at one point, the guy's tied up with his mouth bound, and he's just, like, trying to scoot out, like, just scoot somewhere. And Dee's like, oh, where are you going, buddy? Like, you're wasting energy there. Like, they're just... And to me, it, like, didn't even faze me. Like, oh, they kidnapped someone. Whatever. No big deal.
Yeah. They do that a couple times.
Oh, my God.
The Leprechaun episode.
Oh, right. Oh, my God. Yeah.
When they drive the car around. I forget what episode that is, but where it's like a St. Patrick's Day thing where...
That's that same one, yeah.
Oh, it's the same episode?
Right, and then Dennis gets pissed off. It's like, well, you know, I'm trying to get this to work, like, and they're just like, can we just get dropped off? And then they just leave them in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, he ends up pulling a gun on them.
Oh my God, yeah. And then what's funny, too, then there's an episode, Mac's banging the waitress, so Mac and the waitress just, like, using each other, because Dennis had banged the waitress, and Frank had banged her. But then what's funny, too, is that, what was it, the season 12 finale, when Charlie and the waitress finally, quote-unquote, get together, but they just sleep together, and then he just immediately changes his mind. He's like, oh, well, now she's clinging to me, like, thinking, like, he wanted to get her pregnant, and now he's having second thoughts.
Right,
So no one ever truly gets what they want, even. It's just so great, too. Because why would they? Like, they don't, it's just insane. And another hugely laugh-out moment for me in season 5, the waitress is getting married, when they were then going to put Charlie on a dating site, and it's like, oh, so what are your hobbies? He's like, magnets. But the laugh-out-loud moment for me was when he's on the date, and they're saying, just tell her you're a philanthropist. And then he says, I'm a full-on rapist? I just died. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that whole scene is such a classic Sunny moment.
And and he ate too much cheese, and he's so nervous.
Yeah, like sweating profusely.
Yeah, oh my God. But just all of them with just their symbiotic relationship and how their codependent relationship, really. Especially with, I think, Mac and Dennis. There's that other one, too, Mac and Dennis break up. Mm-hmm. And then they're kind of just both slowly losing it without each other. And then when they kind of just reunite, and then Mac's like, It's like, oh yeah, you have all the great, he's like, words. It's like, yeah, see, you get me. It's like, well, yeah, you couldn't remember the word words. Like,
Yes. Oh, I forgot
my
about that quote. Yeah, it's perfect. Because Dennis really is brilliant too. Like he's incompetent, but he is far more like intellectually advanced than the others. So he's at least trying. And he's psychopathic and doesn't care about people's emotions or anything like that.
so true. Oh my God. Because then you have Dee, who's just this aspiring failed actress, and Dennis just straight up always telling her, it's like, no, you're way past. You'll never, you were, like, even back then you couldn't, but especially not now. You're too old. I think he had wanted to be a veterinarian or something. He went to Penn State.
Right.
So he's, yeah, I guess arguably in that sense, he is the most intellectual of the group. But then you have Frank, he's very crafty, and he's their money guy, always with his...
funding all this, through sketchy means too, I think he ran a sweatshop or something like that.
Definitely, And then every once in a while he just pulls out his gun, like, oh my God.
So anyway, I started blasting the meme.
Oh my God. There is that one too, I can't remember what it's called, something with like Patty's Pub, Home of the Kitten Mittens or something, when they're all trying to like create new products, and then Frank does his like shotgun, like you're having a shot of alcohol, whatever. It's just so weird. And then Mac makes the dick towel.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
The one with the therapist, I forget what it's called.
Oh, the gang gets analyzed? Yeah.
Yes, that's a fantastic episode as well.
Because even with all of that, at the end, they don't really care what she has to say. It's all about just they just want to know from her, like, who should do the dishes. And then she's like, Dee, do the dishes. And then she just gets pissed off. Oh my God. And you just see how Dennis is trying to take control, like trying to analyze them. And then you see Charlie, how he's so disturbed. He was carrying around a dead pigeon. Like, oh my God. Poor Charlie. He kind of gets shit on too, because he's just the janitor at Patty's Pub. I love that episode too, Charlie Work, when it's kind of just like that long continuous shot when he's trying to fool the health inspector, and then they have that guy there and they're trying to do their scheme, and they hide all the chickens because they were going to like use the chickens to contaminate the steaks or whatever.
Right.
And like no one else gives a shit when they pass after all that, and you just see him though the whole time like going through Patty's Pub back and forth. And then it's like, oh, we passed. And it's like, oh, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't matter.
That's one of the best episodes of the whole show. The one camera the whole time, the one cut. And yeah, every Charlie sort of masterminding the ending, where he's hitting the stool every time he walks by it, and then it finally falls apart.
When Dee sits on it, yeah. I like also I like ones when they do the different kind of storytelling methods. Like also that episode, Who Got Dee Pregnant, when they're all recalling the events of the Halloween party. And then everyone's messed up interpretation of it. Like Charlie thinking he's defending the waitress's honor, and then it turned out it wasn't even the waitress. And just then they think that Dee banged one of them. She's like, just was to mess with them, saying, oh, one of you got me pregnant. Oh my God. And then, And then that part too, when Mac's retelling of the story, and then at one point you just see an ostrich. He's like, oh, hey, Dee. That was insane, too. I lost it that part, too.
That was so good.
So messed up, dear God. And also another great one with, like, a different storytelling method, too. Being Frank. And it's, like, the first-person point of view with Frank. That one's great, too.
Yes, it is.
Just everything in Frank's point of view, and then like him texting Pondy, Bill Ponderosa.
And he can't remember Mac's name the whole episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny. It's like, oh, this one. I don't get this one. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. That's hilarious, too. Oh my God. Also, just with Charlie, too, there's that episode when, let's see, it's called Dennis Reynolds' An Erotic Life, when Dennis goes to sex rehab. And then that, too, is like imagining everything, like with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20, and I think Sinbad, is that who it is? And he's just like imagining all of it.
Yeah, right.
It's so wild. But then in that one, when Charlie and Dee trying to walk a mile in each other's shoes, and then when Dee's staying over at Charlie's apartment, and he's like, well, you gotta eat some cat food to like ward off the cats, and you go right to sleep. It's like so disgusting. And then Frank just bursts in, eats some cat food, just like to pass out. Like, this is how they live. Like, oh my God, it's wild. And then Dee, meanwhile, trying to do her stand-up, and she's almost on the verge of vomiting.
Yeah.
There's that episode, too. The gang... Oh, that's it. Season 9. The gang broke Dee. When they just basically did that whole elaborate thing to just get Dee so they can make fun of her again, like get her back to herself. So she's thinking the whole time that she has all this great success, and then it turns out it was all a joke. It's like, oh, we faked everything, the audience, everything. That's like really elaborate. Like, oh my god, the things they do.
Yeah, it sure is.
And then you see Dennis, though, the part when he's like, oh, I'm gonna find a guy for Dee, but then he's just saying, oh, Dee, like, I'm the perfect guy for you, and then he's just like saying all that stuff. And then as he was saying that, I'm thinking to myself, that's such bullshit. He's so full of it. Then she just says, oh, Dennis, suck my dick. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, of course he doesn't really care. He's just saying that because he wasn't in on the plan. He wants, like, go to LA, too. It's like, oh, yeah, we got Dennis. We broke Dennis now. He's like, no. So then, like, that's just so wild, too. I really like those kind of character-defining moments. Like, for Dennis, in Season 5, the Dennis system.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Let's see, the system is demonstrate value, engage physically, nurture dependence, neglect emotionally, inspire hope, and separate entirely. So that's like, oh my god.
That's the episode where you really find out how scary Dennis is.
Oh my god, yeah. That's really just like psychological abuse for his own pleasure, really. Oh my god. Then he was trying to do the system again when the gang group dates in that episode. And then he's getting pissed off because everyone keeps rating him a 1. He's like, I'm not a 1, I'm a 5-star, man. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very uncomfortable episode, too, with the ratings.
Yeah, and then Dee's thinking, like, she's this empowered woman. She just keeps rating everyone 1, but then they don't give a shit. They just because having sex with her, so they don't even care, all the guys.
Right,
she's like,
right.
No, I'm not. Like, yeah.
And of course, for Dennis, it becomes like a superficial, like, way to establish himself as the best, and he becomes obsessed with it.
Oh yeah, because then he went back to the waitress, like, oh, can you just give me a 5-star review? Because the waitress is like kind of hung up on him, and she's like, oh, I don't have the internet or something. And he's like, oh god.
I think they're all incredible actors too. I think that they don't get as much praise for that as they should, especially Dennis and Dee. I think they're just so committed to these characters, and it's hard to believe that they actually seem like good people outside of the show, because they're so convincing.
I think that too. It's like, it's so hard to believe that they're actually all just married, have kids, like, you know, their parents, like, outside the show, because especially, like, even with Mac and Dee, that in real life they're married, and yeah, they do so great with all that.
And I think it was Rob who said people come up to him and tell him, like, oh, the gang is just like my group of friends. And he's
God.
Like, get the fuck away from
alarming.
me. Yeah,
like, that's
exactly.
That's fucking red flags.
They're not supposed to be, like, it's like Rick from Rick and Morty. He's a great character, but you're not supposed to want to be him.
That's so true. Same with BoJack Horseman, too.
Exactly.
I love that show. Yeah. So all of these, every single person in the gang, for sure, they're all horrible. I love also Mac and Charlie write a movie. That's iconic, too, with Dennis. He's like, we show it. We show all of it. Just full penetration. They're back to solving crimes. Like,
yes, that's right.
And then they're just in the movie, and then Dee keeps screwing it up, like being a zombie, and then Frank with his, like, sausage fingers, and he's eating sausage out of his pocket, and the director's like, cut, for the love of Christ, like, fed up with the gang. They're all just, oh my god.
It's another category you could put episodes into, is where they, like, make their own media. You know, like all the Thunder Gun episodes.
Or what's it called? Like, the gang makes Lethal Weapon 6, and then, like, they're trying to get someone to finance their movie, and then you're seeing the movie throughout the episode, and then, like, at one point they switch characters.
Yeah, without telling anyone.
I love when shows, like, have their poorly made movies, because then it's like they're still playing their characters, acting as other characters, and it's just, like, so stupid. Oh my god,
like the Kitten Mittens video.
What's that?
Like the Kitten Mittens video.
Yes, and also with Charlie and Mac with their fight milk, and it's like, what up? And, like, they're doing their stupid, like, infomercial for that.
Yes, fight milk, that's right.
And Dee, when she was doing that pyramid scheme, and she does, like, that one's funny too, and then Frank is stuck in that playgrounds thing the whole time. Mac and Dennis buy a timeshare, that's what it's called. But also in season 4, The Nightman Cometh, Charlie's musical.
Yes, another one of the best, yeah.
With the songs in that, you have to pay the troll's toll to get into this boy's hole. It's like, no, it's boy's soul. And then they're like, oh, so for the rape scene. It's like, no, it's not a rape scene. You become the night man, the day man. I love that song, like the day man, fighter of the night man, champion of the sun. Oh my
which
God.
they do earlier in the like Battle of the Bands episode or whatever.
That's
Right.
right. They were going to do the band and they kicked Dennis out of the group. But with The Nightman Cometh, I don't know if you know this, because when I was researching the show, and by researching I mean just looking at the Wikipedia page,
Uh-huh.
but that they actually did a live tour of that. So they did like a
That's
live version
right.
of the episode and them doing, there were a few more songs. I actually saw it, it was on YouTube, so I saw, it was like really funny. It was just like the episode and they just had a few more songs in there.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, it's really funny. And then because they did like more with Mac with like doing his karate and stuff. Poor Mac thinking he's a badass and they're just like, oh, of course the episode Mac Day when they're like, oh, Mac is just whatever they say, that he's in denial about every aspect of his life, thinking he's a badass and all that.
Yeah, they all keep laughing at him whenever he hisses too.
Yeah, oh my God. I also love in season 6 A Very Sunny Christmas. That just was crazy too.
Is that the couch one with
Yes.
Danny DeVito bursting out of the couch naked?
Yeah, oh my God. And they're like, well, but he called you an asshole because they were pissed off at Frank because growing up he always would buy the gifts for himself that Dennis and Dee wanted.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
That scene is unbelievable.
Oh my God, yeah. And then also when they're like going to spread Christmas cheer and they're singing outside of someone's house or their apartments and they're like, we're trying to bring you Christmas cheer, Dick Cole's like, we don't want it. Like, they don't give a shit. And then when Charlie finds out that his mom is basically a prostitute, that Santas would come over, give him a gift, and then just go sleep with the mom. And then Mac, too, finding out that the parents would just basically go into people's houses and steal the gifts. And then it's like, oh, that's the next
Yeah.
family. Charles like, no, dude. Like, you know, it's like, oh, so then the next family comes. It's so messed up. And you see a young Mac doing his karate. Like, come on.
Yes.
And then, of course,
I
at the
forgot
end,
about
when
that.
Frank turns over a new leaf, decides to buy them all the stuff they wanted, Dennis gets the car, Dee gets her bag that she wanted, and then his old partner screwed them over. So, of course, like, oh, it's
Right.
too good to be true, and then they still get screwed over in the end. Oh, my God.
Totally.
Another iconic one in season 6, the gang buys a boat when they have the boat, and then Dennis is talking to Mac, and then he says, well, we're going to have chicks on there, and then they'll do whatever I want because of the implication. That's so dark.
Yeah,
my
the
God.
implication.
That, like, they're unsafe if they don't sleep with him, basically. Like, oh my God.
And that they're stuck on the boat, too, in that
Yeah.
episode.
Like, you're out at sea, so you might as well. You have no choice. Like, oh my God, that's so, dear God.
And then Dee, he explains what he's doing to Dee, and Dee's like, oh, it's like how I might sometimes misremember things if guys don't, like, give me what I want after. And he's like, even Dennis is horrified
Oh my
by
God,
that.
yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. Oh dear God. So that's really like true sick mastermind. Like, oh my God. Disturbingly dark. Dear God. I like also Mac and Charlie, white trash. And then when they're going to, I forget what they were going to do. They're in the pool though. And then it was a callback to when Charlie has like the short shorts on. He's like spreading his legs. He's like seeing how wide his legs can go. He's like, what is white trash about that? Because he's like, what with Mac and Charlie? Because in that other episode, it was earlier on with the gang gets extreme home makeover edition when they were going to like make over that family's house, and so they
Right.
basically kidnapped them, and then Dennis and Charlie just ended up setting the house on fire. And so
Yep.
fucked up. But Dennis was showing him, it's like, oh, see, I got these shorts, so like, look how wide I can go with my legs. Like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
Yeah, and the delivery guy, like, dropping it into the pool, and then he won't let him out.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That's so funny. I liked also when the gang exploits the mortgage crisis when they were going to do like their honey and vinegar realty with Dennis and Mac. That's so funny too.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Or where they buy a timeshare.
Yeah. That was with D with the pyramid scheme too. And then
Yeah,
also, I don't know, the episode when Charlie thinks he's smart, Flowers for Charlie. And then at the end, it just reveals that it wasn't obviously real. It was like a placebo type thing. But then they were saying, oh, well, see, so the arrogance really went up because then he thought he was too intelligent and he like dismissed the waitress. And then he didn't have time to do like Charlie work. So then they were trying to get a rat out of the wall or something. So then Dennis with his like, well, see, you're not going about it the right way. I'm going to do it classy. I got the cheese, I got the music. And then that song Inspiration by Chicago starts playing, and then like Mac, and
Yes.
like they're kind of like a little moment between them there. Like Mac, like, oh my god, I love that. Oh jeez. See,
And Charlie's just speaking total gibberish, thinking he can speak Mandarin.
right? Oh my god. That's so messed up. Oh, and then another great one is the gang misses the boat when the gang just basically goes their separate ways, and you see Frank goes to a whole new gang, and then you see Mac still in denial with his sexuality, and he's dating hotter women, and then Dennis basically is the one that really is losing it because he wants to sell his Range Rover and it's in the water.
Right.
So I think like he suffers the most not being part of the gang. And then you see Charlie and Dee and how like they realize that they're a great team together, that without the gang like shitting on them, that they just like get along well, and then they just end up making out. Like they were gonna do the Def Poetry thing, Def Jam.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's so
yeah.
funny too. So I guess like theoretically, like they're implying that like without all the toxicity, that the two of them would actually make a good couple. But since this is Always Sunny, that they're never actually gonna end up together because they don't do that kind of stuff on this show.
Right.
I also really like the high school reunion episode, the gang's revenge, like that 2-part episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that Mac is the one that slept with Dennis's prom date or whatever, and he thought that it was that guy, whatever that guy's name is, and they wanted to all get their revenge. And then Dee, like, thinking she's with the cool kids finally, making fun of everyone. And then they do their dance, and then it's just, like, the vision of the dance, but then it turns out they're all just really horrible dancing.
Yep. Yeah, you think it's like this awesome 80s movie thing, but yeah, Mac has like his belly hanging out of his shirt and they're all just sweaty and gross.
Yeah, see, that was funny too, that whole season 7, when Rob McElhenney had just gained weight purposely because he thought it would be funny. Because I think
Yeah,
they
Fat
said,
Mac.
like, he said that it would have been funny because typically on sitcoms that the actors get better looking. So again, as you mentioned, that this is anti-sitcom, so that he wanted all of them to just gain weight, but then they just didn't do that, so then just he did it. So then it's just funny, just Fat Mac throughout the season.
Yep.
That's like really commitment to, like, wow.
And then he lost it all, yeah.
And also in that season, there's the episode the gang gets trapped when they were going to like steal something from the people's house, but then like the homeowners were there. And Dennis says that whole thing, like basically summing up the gang, where he says, "We immediately escalate everything into a 10. Somebody comes in with some preposterous plan or idea, then all of a sudden everyone's on the gas, nobody's on the brakes, nobody's thinking, everyone's just talking over each other with one idiotic idea after another. Until finally we find ourselves in a situation where we've broken into somebody's house and the homeowner is home." That just sums them up, just like going all in with their crazy schemes, and just backfires always.
Yeah, that's the whole show right
Yeah.
there, for sure.
Oh my god, like that just sums it up to a T. Oh, I also like the episode The Gang Dines Out, when they're at that diner, when they first meet that waiter, that he pops up every once in a while too, and they never remember him. And he's like, "Seriously, you guys again?"
Yeah.
He was in this most recent season too.
Yeah, he's around a lot. I think it's great. There's a lot of straight man like characters in the show, but he might be the best
He's
one.
so funny. Also the lawyer too, that they like screwed him over, and he just takes such delight. It's like, "Oh, you people again." Like when they sign over the bar or whatever, like he shows up a few times too. It's so funny. It's just like the lawyer, the waiter, the waitress. They can't bother to learn anyone's names because they're so insignificant. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Another really screwed up one though, season 8, Charlie's mom has cancer. When then like Charlie's mom was doing that, pretending to have cancer, and it's like, well, you guys did it. But then also with Frank though, when they just dig up their mother, like, and he's saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have said I was losing it," and like that was really messed up. It's like, so you made me dig up our dead mother? Like that was terrible. Oh my god.
That's right.
That was wild. Also that one, Pop, the final solution, when they were thinking about pulling the plug on their Pop. It's like, well, let's maybe try euthanizing a dog, see how that feels. Like, oh my god. And they just end up freeing all the stray dogs. And then there's a throwaway line where the doctor's like, "Oh, well, we've just had an influx of stray dog bites recently because they let all the dogs free," or something. Like, so even when they theoretically try to do something good, it just doesn't go well at all. Still terrible. Still so screwed up. Oh my goodness. Oh, and then the gang saves the day. That one's so funny too, when they're all like envisioning when the store is being robbed, and they're all envisioning how, like one by one, how they would have saved the day. And then of course at the end it's like, what should we do? And they just steal some stuff and run out.
Right,
They
right.
don't do shit. Oh my god. In The Gang Gets Quarantined, where you find out that they're all like they were going through alcohol withdrawal because you think that they have the flu. It's like, oh, so we were just all alcoholics basically. And
Yep,
then
yeah, they thought they were going through
yeah,
withdrawal, yeah.
and then Frank like is quarantining them, wanting to be pure, and then they're like, it's like, well, so what do we do? It's like, well, I'm certainly not going to stop drinking. Like Dennis, he's like, well, so you keep an eye on it, but like whatever. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the episode The Gang Squashes Their Beefs, when then like all those characters come back. McPoyles, their actual father Bruce Mathis, their cousin Gail the Snail, and Cricket and
Gail
Bill
the Snail.
Ponderosa. Yeah, like, oh my god, she's so funny too. She's like disgusting. And then like instead of apologizing, then Dennis and Mac like they just turn to each other and then they're just saying, okay, so how are we gonna get this eye? Like not to apologize, but they're just kind of steal an eye for Cricket or whatever. And then just end up the whole apartment going on fire.
Yeah,
And then
that's
Charlie
right.
taking it literally. It's like, oh, so we're gonna have beef and squashing their beef, whatever. For their fucked up like little Thanksgiving, I guess. Oh my god.
Right.
Dear God, it's so insane.
It's probably worth discussing how long the show's been running, too, that it's the longest running live action sitcom by season. It's pretty cool. 14 now, and I think it's renewed for 2 more.
Oh, yeah? Oh, nice. Yeah, it's currently tied with The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet as having the most seasons for a live-action sitcom in American television history. So that's really impressive, yeah. And I think what helps with the quality of this show, because to me, binge-watching this entire series, I didn't notice dip in quality whatsoever. I think it's still
No.
such strong writing and, like, not Flanderization because the characters were already terrible to begin with.
Right,
So just so
right.
freaking hilarious, too. But yeah, like 10
didn't like
episodes per
the
season is
season-
perfect.
Yeah. The season before this current one, I didn't love as much, but then they totally bounced back, I thought, with season 14.
I will say a few of them, and all the episodes really without Dennis. Anytime a character leaves a show and then that dynamic is gone, that's like kind of,
Right.
then it suffers a bit. But
But there are great episodes in every single season, for sure.
yeah, definitely. I love the theme song in this show. It's called Temptation Sensation by a German composer
Yeah.
named Heinz Keisling.
It's
And I
great.
also love like all the music. Like that little bicycle bell theme stands out to me. Like it's just so funny. I was like, oh wow.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah,
Cheery upbeat music and then just that's a great juxtaposition with the tone of the show. Even the title, like Always Sunny, like thinking on the bright side, and yet with these even like Dee with her nickname Sweet Dee, she's not like she's bitter, she's not,
yeah. And they all think they're classier than they are, so it makes sense that there's sort of this like sweeping waltz feel to the intro.
I like also the episode that reminds me too, like when they're becoming art critics basically, and they're saying like, well, what counts as art? And then they want to sell Charlie's art or whatever. And then Dennis was going to try to sell his sex memoirs, like cashing in on the popularity of 50 Shades of Grey. And then they saw that Dee had made a smut film. That's what it's called. Dee made a smut film.
Yes.
And then Dennis is like, the man entered the room. That wouldn't be the only thing he's entering that day. Oh my God. I think also, another great one, in the season 11 finale, The Gang Goes to Hell, that 2-part episode, when it just opens and like they're in the white robes and like, it's like first seems like that they are in heaven, I guess. And then like they're on that cruise and then one by one with all like the 7 deadly sins, like wrath, lust, gluttony, and that they think they're gonna die, and they're doing that imaginary dinner party. Oh my God. And then this show for the most part, like I guess in that sense similar to Seinfeld, no sentimentality whatsoever, but in that episode in particular I got like a tiny twinge. I was like, oh wait, almost some real emotion a little bit with Mac in particular when he finds out that his dad had been writing him this whole time but that Dennis wasn't like giving him the letters, and then he's like, wow, I would like be pissed at you but I have no fight in me left. And then when they think they're gonna die with like the water rising up, and then Mac just says, "Let's go be with the gang." It's just like it was so dark. Oh my God.
Yes.
And then after all that, they just see like they're in a police station. But that's like they're just all really stuck with each other, because even in the other one with the gang squashes their beefs when they're trying to like make amends and they're like, oh, who cares? Like we're all really need anyway. Like they don't really care then at the end that they didn't like make amends with any of those people that they screwed over.
That would have been a great series finale, but of course I'm glad they kept going.
Yeah, definitely. I also like the episode where there were two of them, Char D. McDennis, their little game that they created, and then they
Yep.
did like a follow-up Char D. McDennis 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
With like each thing's a different round, and then you go from whatever it is, beer to wine to hard liquor, and then you do like the mental games and then like the physical stuff.
Yeah, all the traditions are great. The banter and like
Yeah.
how like they're all classy with each other, and then they're like
then they're
stomping their drinks.
Yeah, oh my god, and then like Frank was in the cage, and then you find out that Dennis and Dee had been cheating, they weren't really drinking.
Right.
See, Dennis and Dee though, like I think they do make a good team. Like I think like even though whatever, it's a toxic relationship with all of them, and that Dennis always shits on Dee and he always calls her a bitch and stuff. Deep down, he does love in his own screwed up way. I feel it though. I mean, he has told her he loves her. Even in that one too, in The Gang Goes to Hell, he's like, "Well, I love you," and she says, "Whatever." He's like, "Oh, whatever." Like he's so offended then that she didn't say it back.
Right.
So
yeah.
he does have emotions. I feel he just doesn't have any empathy, because in that one too, he's like pretending to cry. It's like, "Oh, you have an onion in your hand." He's just like so twisted though. But oh my god.
Is it Mac or Dennis who's like, remember Feelings from middle school?
I don't remember that.
I think
Well,
it's
no,
Mac.
the oldest friends are Mac and Charlie. They knew each other from middle school, I guess, or elementary school, and then the rest of them met in high school.
But they just mean like having feelings. So I think it's Mac who's like, remember like having feelings like in middle school, and they're like, we have feelings all the time. Maybe I think it is Dennis now that I think about it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, now I remember that. Him trying to... That's it. Yeah, that's the one when... Then, like, he has too many feelings or whatever. But, like, when they went to that guy, then they ended up digging up the mom. And he's like, oh, too many feelings now. Yeah, that was that one. Him trying to, like, actually have some feelings. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, I found the quote. Dennis says, I'm having feelings again, like some kind of 14-year-old kid. You remember feelings, right? Then Max says, yeah, I have feelings every single day of my life. And Dennis goes, do you?
Oh my god, like he can't fathom that.
It's
like,
rough.
oh my god. Oh, see, also in the episode in season 12, the Gang 10's bar, when he just kind of gets offended that, like, he just wants everyone to just work. Like, can we just work, like, do our jobs? And then they're all like, well, they're all, like, skeptical, like, what's his angle? Like, us doing work? Like, what's he really want us to do? And then really it's just because he's offended that no one got him a gift for Valentine's Day. And then Max, see, another display of real emotion when he got him that giant fucking, like, rocket gun, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, oh my god. So which brings me to a question, like, because then there's the whole thing with Mac's sexuality, then he finally comes out. So, do you think that Mac, because it's implied, I don't know, but that Mac is in love with Dennis?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
See, I think... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I meant yes as in, like, that we should talk about this side of Mac. Like, it's... I don't know. I would say he might. There's certainly an admiration there, and in later seasons he like worships Mac.
This past season,
or Dennis.
Yeah, this past season he's more like wanting to like please Dennis.
But it seems more from a platonic standpoint, because even once Mac is out, he's still deeply repressed.
Yeah. Well, except for in the season 13 finale, Mac finds his pride.
Yeah. Which I thought was beautiful, the dance piece, yeah.
It's so moving and powerful, and I cried with that. That was I actually felt real emotions watching this show.
Yes.
You know, it was very beautiful and moving, something you wouldn't expect from this show.
And Frank's reaction was great,
yeah,
too.
It was beautiful.
All of it.
And also just like his heartbreak when his dad gets up and then the woman saying it's okay. It's, oh my God, yeah, breathtaking, absolutely beautiful. Because the whole time they want him to ride on the float, like dance on the float, but then he does it his own way with this beautiful interpretive dance. So that's something you wouldn't expect from this show, so that's why it hits all the more. It was so powerful. But yeah, to me, my interpretation with Dennis and Mac, their relationship, is that I think Mac he's attracted to Dennis. I think he thinks he's in love with him, but it's only because he's always around. They live together.
Right.
So, like, he thinks he needs him. He thinks, like, oh, I need to please Dennis because then he'll leave, like, he won't love me as a friend, whatever. But it's just because his own like insecurity then, and him, I guess, owning up to his feelings all this time. Because I know earlier on that episode when, well, in that episode, Mac bangs the waitress when he's like, oh, so you dressed up as Charlie and I'll be Dennis, or no, you be Dennis. And then Dennis is like, oh, so he wants to be you getting banged by me or something like that.
Right.
So, oh my God. So then also now in season 13, I mean, I love that episode, Time's Up for the Gang.
Yes.
That was fantastic too. And then Dennis's whole spiel at the end. He's like, no, we should definitely stop harassing women. But, in time, like one step at a time. Oh my God.
The crotch grab is what I'll never forget from that episode, when Mac lifts Dee up from her crotch and and then her realizing that she can use that against him. It's all just so messed up.
Yes, oh my God. I also loved the gang solves the bathroom problem with basically that whole nuanced discussion. And then just at the end, animal shithouse. Like, that's all.
Yep.
There you go, solving the problem.
Because they're trying to just get out of there and go to the, Jimmy Buffett concert, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then Charlie's like, oh, if you like pina coladas. And he's like, well, that's not a Jimmy Buffett song.
Not, yeah.
It's so funny. I love his, line delivery, Dennis. It's just so hilarious to me. And also the gang does a clip show is great when, they're basically mocking clip shows, and they do that one clip, which is something I had saw before I started watching the show, when they parody Seinfeld, and they do, the episode The Contest. That's great, too.
Yes.
And then this past season, for me, just season 14, I had most of my my really big laugh out loud moments. I loved the season 14 premiere, The Gang Gets Romantic, making fun of all of those rom-com tropes, and they're talking about meet cutes, and then Charlie's saying, oh, you mean a meat cube? And then they're soulmates with those guys, those
yes.
Austrian guys. And then you have Mac trying to do a meet cute with that couple. He's like, oh, maybe it's for me. And then Dennis is trying to seduce the wife, and he's like, sex, banging, with the wine. And then she's all upset, and then they're talking about, oh, who's this guy Teddy? And then it finds out that Teddy was their son, and then he's changing the music, and then he's that song playing La Bamba, and he's and those songs, and he turns it off, he's like, oh, I don't have any dead kid music, and it's terrible.
Oh,
and then that part with Dee, when she's like, oh, well, men can't just decide anymore, and then they just cut away from her, oh my God. It's so wild. Also, the gang texts was so funny to me, when they're at the zoo, and those long texts to Mac with Dennis, and he's saying, oh, I tried to make you happy, all that stuff. If you pause those and read those long texts, it's hilarious in that episode. Right. And then they did a D-Day episode this past season, which was great. Also that film noir-esque episode, The Janitor Always Mops Twice, that one was fantastic. That was my favorite of the season. Was it? That was so, making fun of that style of film. It was so funny. It's like, did you leave the room? It's like, nah, we're still here. Well, I'm not looking at you. We're not looking at you either. It's just so funny. Oh my God, brilliant. Yeah. I also loved Patty's Has a Jumper, with them just kind of contemplating with Dennis with his algorithm, with could he, would he, should we, and that's our answer. And they're looking through his social media. He's like, oh yeah, I know what I ate. I want to know what you ate. It's just great. So what have we learned? And then Dee with eating butts, and then Mac is that Dee is a nasty fucking slut. I'm like, oh my God, brutal. And then a woman's right to chop, with them talking about women's rights with their bodies, and then when she gets the haircut just to prove a point. And then the season 14 finale was great too, Waiting for Big Mo, which is a parody of Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. That was brilliant. I loved that too.
That was a very good one.
Such fantastic writing and just fantastic show about these terrible people. I love it. Oh my goodness. All right, so I guess that's about wrapping it all up. So just to conclude, I wanted to ask you, fuck, marry, kill with Charlie, Dennis, Mac. What would you say?
Ooh, they're sort of all wrong answers, right? In a way, but
you could throw Frank in there too. I mean,
oh jeez.
I know.
Maybe marry him for the money.
Right? See, if you marry Charlie, for instance, then you're living in squalor with Frank there. And then, that's disgusting. But then if you marry Dennis and then, say, divorce Dennis, then you have the whole thing with the alimony. So I would think my gut reaction at first was marry Charlie, fuck Dennis, kill Mac. But now I'm thinking maybe I think fuck Charlie, because apparently he's really good in bed. I mean, the waitress was like, that was actually pretty good.
That's right.
And then Dennis
yeah.
just to drive him insane. And then Mac, but Mac's good looking too. It's just he wouldn't,
Right,
he's not into
yeah.
that. So what would you say?
Probably fuck Mac, marry Charlie, kill Dennis.
For your
Dennis
own
scares me.
safety, that's fair.
I couldn't marry Dennis for sure.
He's like, that's true. See, Mac, then he got ripped. Like, then he's like, oh, you guys like me,
Yeah.
right? He takes off his shirt. He's like, I got ripped now. It's like, oh, that's great, Mac. Like, they don't give a shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, right.
So
They're
funny.
like, why did you do this?
Yeah, right? Like, they don't care. Oh, it's just so hilarious, too. Oh my goodness. So I think that about wraps it up. So, Casey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite shows. Always down.
Such a hilarious show, really is. And again, let everyone know where they can find you on social media and all that.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I'm not doing a podcast anymore, but I'm on Twitter at Casey Robert Reed, and that's Instagram too. So, yeah. And go listen to the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast, because I think it's pretty timeless, even though we're not still on.
Yeah, just real quick, it was just like such a nice treat when you guys came back to talk about the Rocco special, and like you could tell like you were just like enjoying it, just just like to come back and like watch the episode and just for the fun of it, not because you felt obligated to do it. So it was a nice
It was very
treat.
fun to go back. And
Yeah.
I kind of want to do the Invader Zim special too, but it almost feels like we missed our window
Oh,
there,
I loved
We
that
did
special.
like watch it and message each other while
Yeah.
we watched it. Yeah, we loved it too.
I loved it. I'm like, I love that show. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. It was amazing.
So maybe
It's so
after
good.
the SpongeBob movie comes out next year,
Right, the
maybe there will
third
be
one.
another one. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. All right. And with that, that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, listen to the music of the night when I discuss the Phantom of the Opera. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.